This afternoon's briefing is part of a continuing series on support to Operation Joint Endeavor. Dr. Paul Kaminski, the Undersecretary of Defense for Acquisition and Technology, will introduce DoD's initiative to improve command and control capabilities in the U.S.-European Command Theater, and in particular in support of Joint Endeavor. Following the briefing and questions and answers on this subject, he will discuss the acquisition decision regarding the Hunter UAV program. Also briefing are Air Force Colonel Ed Mahan, who is the technical assistant to the director of the Advanced Research Projects Agency, and Army Major General David Kelly, the vice director of the Defense Information Systems Agency. Mr. Emmett Page, Assistant Secretary of Defense for Command, Control, Communications, and Intelligence, Dr. Larry Lynn, Director of ARPA, and Mr. Jack Bukowski, Deputy Undersecretary of Defense for Advanced Technology, will also be available to answer questions following the briefing. And with that, I'll turn the podium over to Dr. Kaminski.
Hi. We're here today to announce an important initiative that will provide information dominance for Operation Joint Endeavor. This initiative has many of the ingredients that I've spoken to you about in the past from a philosophical bent in our programs. It includes the use of integrated product teams to pull this together, the use of our Advanced Concept Technology Demonstration Program, the application of commercial systems and technologies to our defense needs, and it advances us a significant step forward towards our objective of information dominance for the battlefield. What we're talking about here is deploying advanced command and control capabilities in support of the U.S.-European Command and operations in Bosnia, thereby further enhancing our coalition forces' significant information advantage. This concept, which is formally known as the Bosnia Command and Control Augmentation System, really had its genesis in the 1994 Defense Science Board summer study. This was a summer study on the subject of information architecture for the battlefield, and it was co-chaired by two people, Craig Fields, who is now the chairman of the Defense Science Board, and General retired Jim McCarthy. At the conclusion of that study in October of '94, we all recognized that we had an opportunity to employ commercially developed technology, particularly the use of the commercial direct broadcast TV services kinds of capability, to significantly improve our information dominance. Last summer, we also initiated another special DSB effort. This was chaired by Charles Gandy and, again, General Jim McCarthy. The purpose of that Defense Science Board task force, which was entitled Improved Application of Intelligence to the Battlefield, was to focus on our situation in EUCOM, and in particular it was directed in anticipation of our future deployment of forces in Bosnia. This study looked specifically at our posture for employment and the use of intelligence derived from national and theater assets for the European theater. It turns out that the executive secretary of that task force was Colonel Ed Mahan, who you'll hear some more about this afternoon, who has followed up with his initiative from his ARPA perspective. In September of '95, Secretary Perry and the DCI, John Deutsch, took a briefing on the significant findings of this specially focused DSB task force. And the findings included the following: the need to do a better job of sharing intelligence with our I-4 partners, the need to adjust our security procedures to allow this to happen, the need to quickly reallocate the bandwidth of our military communications satellites to best employ them, the need for commanders on the ground to be able to dynamically task our intelligence collection assets. The Department acted on implementing solutions to these findings and needs. The Bosnia Command and Control Augmentation System being briefed to you today is one of those solution initiatives. It deals with several of the problems. The credit for this initiative primarily goes to the Advanced Research Projects Agency, to ARPA, for making the technology pieces available, and also very much so to DISA, the Defense Information Systems Agency, for taking those component technology pieces and putting them together into a workable system to implement this initiative. This system will provide better communications connections between U.S.-based information sources into the theater and among rear and forward deployed commanders. We are using commercial satellite technology protected at the secret level through the use of encryption devices to directly broadcast information to operation centers and to deployed forces. In a sense, you can think of this direct broadcast approach as having a long-range remote control. That is, on low bandwidth, being able to select the channel with the information that you need and having it deployed forward at high bandwidth in the theater. We are also putting in place a high bandwidth, secure tactical internet using commercial satellite transponders. This also will be protected at the secret level. This is in addition to secure landlines and fiber optic links between the U.S. and European command. This initiative builds on work that has been accomplished in our ACTD programs. By taking advantage of commercial technology and commercial business practices, we will reduce costs and improve performance, supportability, and maintainability of the communications infrastructure. In addition, this effort is moving on a very compressed schedule, which would not be possible without taking advantage of commercial technology and innovative contracting methods. It is a superb example of how the Department is changing its way of doing business through our acquisition reform initiatives. This initiative combines the most advanced defense and commercial technologies. The system will provide our commanders with a common operational picture so that regardless of location and military service, they will operate with the same information at the same time. This will increase our forces' effectiveness and reduce their risk. Overall, our commanders will have access to more information and more quickly. For example, they will be connected to each other so that they can collaboratively plan with secure video teleconferencing and shared electronics maps. I think I can do this myself. No, maybe not. As I said earlier, we've been approaching this through the use of an integrated product team. The credit for the accomplishment rightly goes to the two lead agencies, the Advanced Research Projects Agency, ARPA, and the Defense Information Systems Agency, DISA. Let me stress that this system came about as the result of the hard work of many more individuals and organizations across the whole department. The augmentation system is being managed by an integrated product team and includes representatives from the Joint Staff, the Unified Commands, the intelligence and mapping agencies, and our armed services. As you can tell by the list of team members, it's quite a feat to have a fully coordinated effort ready to go a month after the first troops arrived in Bosnia. Before I introduce the people to my left, I would like to acknowledge Secretary Emmett Page's assistance in this activity, especially in applying previously planned improvements to the department's capabilities in command, control, communications, computing, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. In addition to Mr. Page, I have with me today Mr. Jack Bukowski. Jack is the Deputy Undersecretary for Advanced Technology and responsible for running our ACTD programs, and he's Secretary Perry's OSD staff focal point for evaluating the suitability of applying advanced technologies in support of Operation Joint Endeavor. I'd also like to recognize the efforts of DISA's director for this particular initiative, Brigadier General Beale, who could not be with us today. He has been a key leader in putting together and integrating this effort and been a principal moving force in making it happen. Larry Lynn, the director of ARPA, is also with us today, and this activity really was largely stirred by Larry's vision in terms of the time and effort he spent in the theater, understanding theater needs and how the ARPA technology base can be applied. At this time, I'd like to bring Colonel Ed Mahan of ARPA to the podium, and he will then be followed by Major General David Kelly, the Vice Director of DISA. Following that, we'll be available to take questions on this subject. I'd like to close out our discussion on this subject before we get into questions about the Hunter program. Ed?
The ability to achieve a program like this in very short order rests not only in the wisdom and findings of the Defense Science Board, but the vision of the Joint Staff looking forward to how one uses information in advanced battle space, what we call information dominance, and the long-term investments that ARPA has made in the underlying technologies and transition of those technologies into the commercial marketplace so they meet defense needs and we can bring that technology back and apply it in very short order. The information dominance vision really is a transition from how we look at information today in a single thread from the source of the information through its distribution system to the user, and transforming that into information geographically oriented, or oriented in the way the soldier sees it in his battle space. And being able to take information from a number of different sources, organize it into this geographical orientation, and provide it to all of the commanders at one time to provide this common operational picture. For this concept to be successful, one needs a unified, integrated communication networking system, and that's really the objective of this Bosnian Command and Control Augmentation Program. What this program will provide for the warfighter primarily is a lot more communication capacity to places where he really doesn't have it today. The last mile, as we refer to it, tends to be a very difficult place to get a lot of communications, where we have a lot of luxury in this country because we can pick up the phone and get a lot of connectivity. Forward deployed troops don't have that connectivity or bandwidth. The use of these commercial direct broadcast capabilities allows us to put a lot of this connectivity and capacity down to the very distant end of the soldier in the field. And together, since everyone is looking at the same information base, it provides everyone a common picture. This provides better decisions, more timely decisions, and it minimizes the fratricide and the complexity of military operations. We're using this as a model to understand how advanced information technologies can be used for future contingencies, and to give us a way to accelerate the insertion of the advanced communications and command and control technologies that ARPA and other agencies are developing. And in effect allows us to utilize the richness of the technology base of this country to provide our warfighters capability in very short order to meet the rapidly changing environment we find ourselves in today's battlefield. And to go into more depth into the details of the program, I'll turn the podium over to General Kelly.
Thank you. The depiction you see on this chart is the infrastructure as it is today. We have a large command and control infrastructure in Bosnia, primarily focused on core C2 requirements. Now, the nature of the terrain here, as we often find when we go into an area on an operation, the infrastructure simply is not there to let us do terrestrial extensions. When you couple that with the terrain in Bosnia, which is highly compartmented and mountainous, and then you throw in the mine situation where there are literally thousands of mines in unmarked locations, the thrust within country has been to use space assets to establish the backbone communications, largely military satellites. That means we've used a lot of the capacity of the military satellites. We also have the grid communications in the nations that are cooperating with us, and we have connections from the European continent back to the United States through undersea fiber optic cable. If I give the next chart. What this initiative is going to do is really add to the capability of the forces in a dramatic fashion. This broadcast satellite has the ability to see the entire theater. We have a potential now, for example, to put a Predator UAV flying over Bosnia, downlink that information to a satellite station, uplink it back and get it into the broadcast location and put it out to multiple locations on the battlefield. One of the biggest problems we had in Desert Storm was disseminating large bandwidth information. This broadcast capability is going to allow us to do that. Additionally, we can, on the broadcast, put the intelligence summaries. We can have the soldiers in the field pull the information that they need. The commanders can pull the information from databases in the United States. And another initiative that's tied in very closely to the American forces in Tuzla is the telemedicine capability. This initiative will allow us to connect Landstuhl Hospital to the deployed hospitals in the Tuzla area, where medical expertise can be called upon. And if the answer is not good enough in Landstuhl, we have connectivity back to the United States to San Antonio, where from there we can have a hub that we can reach every hospital in the United States that's tied into the telemedicine network. So that way we can have the specialists on call at any time across time zones. So when you add telemedicine, the potential to do real-time information that will extend the eyes of the commander to see the terrain out in front of him with the UAV, and then to broadcast that information to the locations that need it, this is a dramatic step forward. It's an ambitious initiative, but something that we think will really pay dividends for the soldiers that we have deployed into the Bosnia area. Next chart. We're really focused on the idea of one team and one fight. In this case, we hope the peacekeeping operation stays at that level, and it's one team with one major mission to maintain the peace. But the commanders that are over there need to be able to provide a credible appearance of force and the ability to use force should it be required. This command and control system that we're putting out there will allow them to coordinate. Vertically, we always do a good job, but horizontally, this really improves the horizontal coordination among the commands with this initiative. The